following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Bronx Roots, Michael Preminger, David Hubler, and me, the weak link of it all, Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Michael, David, how are you?
I'm
David
fine.
First.
I'm fine. A little cold here. We actually got below freezing this morning. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, Michael and I ask ourselves this question. We don't even word the words. We don't even say the words. But secretly we ask, you're in Maryland. It's cold. Come to California.
I'm not in Maryland. If I were in Maryland, it'd even be colder. It was like 20-something this morning.
You're in Virginia.
Virginia. Carry me back.
But so close to Washington, D.C., it's cold there, too.
Oh, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever considered coming to California?
I actually was intent on coming to California when I was ready to graduate from NYU, and I joined the Los Angeles chapter of SDX, Sigma Delta Chi, which is the National Journalism Society, on the assumption that I'd be out there and I'd find a job through their job placement. I never made it. I never made it out there. In fact, funny story, and Michael's part of this. The very first time I ever went to California was the year of the Great Bronx Reunion. That was like 1982. And I saw Michael, and Michael was going back for this great reunion, which he can tell you about.
Yeah.
And I was out in California. But the strangest story about that, Michael and I and his wife at the time, we went out for lunch in this delicatessen over there, I guess near the CBS studios. And as we're walking in, there was a sign up on the window, right by the door, and it was a sign in red and black letters, and it talked about the David Clinton Alumni Association meeting coming up on such and such a date. And I said, my first thought was, I'm not going to be here for that. I'll miss it. And then I realized as I walked in through the door, wait a minute, I'm 3,000 miles away from where the high school is. It didn't dawn on me until I was in there that this was an alumni group that met in Los Angeles. And it was such a strange feeling because, universities have alumni associations all over. But here was the very first time I came across my old high school that had regular reunions in Los Angeles. And so, and then Michael came back. I think you came back, but just before I was going back to Virginia. So we didn't get too much, we didn't talk to each other or see too much of each other that time. But Mike, talk about that great reunion. This was one of the great all-time Bronx events.
It was a reunion of people who had hung out on Matchalo Parkway. It wasn't so much Clinton or junior high school, but it was the Parkway.
Yeah.
And hundreds of people who had hung out over a number of years. So not everybody knew each other. Some were older than others, but it was just a lot of people. And I still have, I think I've talked about it, this great poster that a friend of, I guess, Scary and Penny Marshall had made. And it shows the different stores in the Bronx. And
on our part of the Bronx, yeah.
And what songs or records were hit during like the 50s and certainly the 60s, and the names of the groups, and it was and at the very bottom it says Marjorie Marshall's Dance Studio. And that was Gary and Penny's mother had a dance studio in the bottom or the basement, whatever, of a building in their building. but this reunion was great. Robert Klein, and it was written up in New York Magazine.
Robert Klein was the man I was thinking of. You guys went to school with him.
Yeah.
Off the air, we were
that's
chatting.
what you were thinking of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
What a terrific guest that he'd make someday on the show.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Phew. Well, he wrote a book. I forget the name of it.
His first album was Child of the 50s, I think, something like that. His first,
I think so.
Yeah, his first comedy album. And he lived close to you.
He lived about 3 blocks from me.
Yeah.
3 blocks. Yeah. And his.
May I ask you guys about Penny Marshall and her brother? Why they didn't make that show a Bronx-based show instead of a Midwestern type thing?
Which show? You mean, Happy Days?
Laverne and
Laverne and Shirley.
Laverne and Shirley took place in Milwaukee.
Oh, it was an offshoot of a Midwestern thing.
Right, of Happy Days.
Yes. That's
spin-off.
Spin-off,
just answered my own question. But the enjoyable part
I'll tell you what my guess is, that Gary Marshall aimed for, how do I put it, not the Midwest, the guys who sat in the balcony, my guess is he figured, well, if it was in the Bronx, it would be too...
Yeah.
Right.
So this way, you put it in Milwaukee, and you're, I can't think of the words now. You're trying to get the vast audience across the country.
Yeah, the Middle America. And he actually went to college out there. I know this from having listened. Northwestern, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Penny Marshall went.
Think about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What? No. And she went to the University of New Mexico. So, their ties to the Bronx lasted only so long, and I think Mike's right. They needed to cultivate a broader audience. The Goldbergs had taken the original Goldbergs, not that show that's on now, but the original Goldbergs had taken over the Bronx.
Molly Goldberg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you would think the way Gary Marshall had such a distinct way of talking. I don't know.
Yes.
Part of it was the Bronx. It was slow.
Yeah.
We'll go over here. We'll go over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we'll shoot here. I love you. How are you? And Penny a little like that too. So that was not Milwaukee. Laverne,
right.
Or Shirley was. But yes,
again, stuff that we take from the Bronx, that we take all with us for our lives.
Well, she was Laverne.
She was Laverne. But
because she
had those shows in the Midwest, and then you write what you know when you're from the Bronx. So you're not fooling us, but you're making the guy in Milwaukee feel more comfortable.
Right, exactly. And in addition, what's his name?
Fonz, you're thinking of.
Yeah, no,
he was in New York.
Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
I think he was actually from Connecticut. I have a feeling he was, because I know a woman who dated him once, and that was in Connecticut. So he might have been from Connecticut. I'm not sure.
Well, remember Phil Foster?
Yes.
Comedian, played Penny's father.
Really?
You can't.
I didn't know that.
He was the one. That's where the spinoff came from. He ran the club or the restaurant where the Fonz hung out.
Oh, not in real life, of course.
No, not in real life. No.
You said
no.
Father, yes. Phil Foster, the great Dodger fan, as a matter of
fact. Yes, his routines were about the Dodgers. I remember them from Ed Sullivan's show.
Right.
He did a whole thing about Oiskin.
Oisk.
Yeah, Yeah, he was a terrific comedian.
You can't get more New York than Phil Foster.
Right.
There he was, like, having a place in Milwaukee, so come on.
Hey, we had Oysk as a guest on these airwaves on the Roger Show. We do. And like all of our shows, anybody listening, they are all archived on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, punch in Comfortably Zoned, and whatever name you want, you'll find the show that we do. We did with them. And the same goes true. If you punch in Comfortably Zoned and Bronx Roots, you will come up with all of the shows in order that we've recorded over the year that we've been doing this. It's just about a year now. So it's one of the things I really look forward to in my week. I live a Walter Mitty life. No question about it. I'm very, very, very lucky.
I was just wondering. I wonder what happened. I have a copy of that poster too, and I had it framed and up somewhere in the house, but I don't find it anywhere now. I know it's here.
I framed it, and it's on my wall.
Yeah, just look. There are only 3 more to look at. You covered one wall. You look at 3 more, and
well, they only had one reunion, unfortunately. You could
that
get
was
3,
it.
A set. You can make a set. But I was sorry I missed it. But I did enjoy going out to California at that time, and then I made several other trips.
It's just easier living, I think, Michael, you'll agree, than not just Virginia, back east in general. You live out in California, it's just an easier life. You're not fighting the elements.
Well, wait a minute. Don't say that.
Hold on.
Don't say that. One of the elements is fire. So don't say.
Michael, I'm in the northern part. You're in the southern part. We have fires burning close to us.
Yeah, it's very, very frightening. Very scary to see
an article in today's LA Times, and it was exactly what you guys are talking about California living. And earthquakes and fires and floods and mudslides, and yet people keep coming.
Keep it there, yeah.
But
and there's no paradise anymore.
No. And politically, it's no paradise anymore. Living in this country, you think, where are you going to live that you can go to? We're really.
Well, California's getting even more dim, according to I think, a number of Republicans. Like one guy who'd been in office for 30 years. A guy named Rohraback was.
Oh yeah, Dana Rohraback. Yeah.
Now you know what that yesterday what that triggered in Trump was a retaliation. Fires are going on. And he was asked about it, and you know what he said? He said, blame that on poor management of fire control.
Yeah.
You got people dying. You can't say the first thing, it's a terrible tragedy.
Right.
My heart goes out to these people, and whatever happens, we're the government, and we'll try to bring relief. End of fucking press conference, bozo. Thank you. I mean, this is America, and he's the president, and you have a tragedy, and he's got to quantify it with what we did, what money appropriated.
Well, he said he would pull the money out. He said that California, he would, reduce the amount of money available to California if they didn't straighten up there. I know.
Is this a compassionate man? Is there any compassion in this man? I guess is the question. What will it take before he goes, holy shit, I'm screwing it up?
No, that will never happen. That will never happen.
Exactly.
It's interesting, though.
This week was a terrible example how he came down. You talk about freedom of the press. He comes down on Acosta, which you could make a vague argument that the man hogged the microphone or this. So they had to go out and doctor the tapes. And that wasn't the worst of it. He managed to offend 3 black African-American women on the same 48-hour period of time.
He does multitask well.
Sit down. I've heard you ask questions.
I know.
Sit down.
Dumb
you
questions.
ask stupid questions, dumb questions. You talk to people like that? Who have we ever had a situation where a president is so out of touch with the press, which is there are ombudsmen?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't see it mentioned once in the papers, but if you remember the confrontations with Sam Donaldson, Donaldson was just as pushy, if not more so, in trying to get answers out of the president. And yet no president, he was there with Nixon and Ford and on all the way up until he retired, and I forget who was president when he retired. It might have been Clinton. But in any case, he would always rile the president with his questions. No one pulled his press credentials, ever.
And there was a woman, she died recently. I can't think of her name.
The lady was always up front in the first row there.
Right, and asking questions, and she nudged presidents.
Oh, yeah, sure. How quickly we forget.
None of them ever would react to another human being like he reacts to the president. He couldn't go to services for World War I because it was raining.
I know. That was a disgrace.
He represents us in the world, and all pride in America be gone. And do you respect the presidency? No, but do you respect you got to respect the office, and he makes it impossible to do so.
Yes.
I couldn't believe that that 5 people died in their cars, burned to death in their cars in that fire. Oh, yeah. The thought of it was just.
Yeah.
I will say, Tally and her sister have very, very close friends in paradise. They've become my friends over the years. My. Sherry Stanton, and who's living in a hotel in far away from the devastation, and her imagine what it is to be rescued by your son who's there's a fire going on, Mom, come on, you got to get right now, everything going out. And she was rustling up morning breakfast for her brood of folk, all she was doing. And all of a sudden, her entire life changes. Clothes on her back, her wallet or purse or whatever, and they're off. And she didn't know till 2 days later whether her house had been burnt. Found out totally wrecked. They're like, people still haven't been identified.
Yes.
Survivors have to come up with their DNA so they can identify.
That's how bad those people died in their own cars. Yeah.
Right. Cars and homes and what have you. And that's why when he came on and said that late last night,
it's just stupid.
I wanted to throw up. Because I know what she's going through. I know how we all collectively worried until every person that she knew, every person that accounted for, and thank God they were saved. But imagine every piece of memorabilia
I know everything. Your whole life is wiped out.
Everything. Yeah. It's so heartbreaking. And I'm looking at the TV now. They were showing. They call it the Woolsey Fire. 83,000 acres have burned. Yeah.
And this is after the fires in the spring and summer that was so devastating. Fortunately, not as many people died. But if you recall, what was it? I can't think of the name of the fire. I should remember because I wrote about it. The big one up there near Sacramento. By the way, the woman you were referring to was Helen Thomas, who was the UPI correspondent, long time. And I worked with her when I was at UPI. I worked with her. I actually had to wake her up one Sunday morning to get over to the White House. They were going to make some announcement. And I had to call her at home and wake her up and get her over to
She was delightful, but she could become crotchety and
she had
for the right reason. She's asking questions
that
are important.
Well, she didn't have much good to say about George W. But Helen was. I got sent over to the White House earlier, before I even went to UPI, when I was at Voice of America. It was the first time Jimmy Carter was president, and I went in there for a signing of some bill or whatever it was, and she took me under her wing, and she said, "Oh, let me show you. Here's how you do this. Here's where you go for this, that, the other thing." She was incredibly gracious, and I wasn't even part of UPI at the time, and so in fact, I'm still friendly with her good friend from UPI, the two of them were very, very close and helped when Helen did her autobiography. So I see the other woman particularly.
What a wonderful experience! You never mentioned that before.
Oh it was terrific. The White House. I wish I had done more, but the trouble with working in the White House is that you're on 24/7. You know, even when the term is when the lid is on, that means that there's not going to be any more announcements that day. That doesn't mean that, because if something happens, the lid pops off very quickly. You know, but it means that you can go home.
How long did you cover the White House?
I didn't. I was only over there for that one signing ceremony. That's when I met Helen. Yeah, I didn't. Like I said, it would have been a terrific. My good friend over in Maryland, who did the White House beat for VOA for a good number of years. One of his great experiences was he was on Air Force One. I don't remember where they were going or coming from, but the film that they showed was Air Force One. If you remember the movie, the president escapes in his pod at the end, or something, and flies him back down to the ground. David said it was quite an experience being on Air Force One and watching Air Force One at the same time.
That's bizarre, actually.
Yes, it really is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Life imitating art.
Right, exactly. But he's told me there is no pod for the president to escape it.
Well, there's going to be no pod for this president to escape, because he's got stuff coming at him from about 7 ways to Sunday. He's got the tax evasion stuff. He's got the inheritance tax. He's got his businesses mixed up with Saudi Arabia. He's got the obstruction of justice, which should have been so obvious that the moment he fired Comey, they should have gone, hold on.
They couldn't. The Democrats had no power.
It was 2 years when this is all settled, it will all come back to the moment he fired Comey, the way
Possibly so, yeah, possibly. But I've always operated on the assumption that as a wheeler dealer in New York real estate, the guy has to be dirty. I mean, you can't build an empire of Manhattan buildings. I mean, look at what's her name? The woman who her name's on the tip of my tongue. she dodged that the taxes are for the little people. You know who I mean. I mean, these people built their empires on sleaze for the most part.
Yep.
Even Michael Cohen, who was Trump's lawyer for so long, I mean, how did he build this up? In his case, his parents weren't very wealthy. His parents weren't multimillionaires, yet he owned taxi cabs, and he owned a fleet of taxi cabs and some other businesses on the side, in addition to being Trump's lawyer. I mean, there's so much sleaze going on there between the mafia controlling some of the unions and these developers trying to cut deals. It would be a miracle if somebody came through one of these things totally clean.
Right.
A long time ago, I came up with what I think it all is. It's what I describe as the unholy trinity. It's big business, government, and organized religion with their tax deductions, combining to mess up the lives of the working people who now can be described. Can you imagine this 50 years ago when we were growing up? The working poor, that expression. It is so infuriating that a man or a woman can go out and work 40 hours a week and more sometimes and not have enough to buy a house, pay the rent, this, that, and the other thing. You're working, and they describe you as the working poor. What have they done to us?
Well, the worst part of it is, and I've been reading about this, it's nothing I thought of myself, but pensions are being reduced to pecuniary levels because the unions don't have the manpower to keep the support that you need. Same thing is happening in industry. Corporations are doing away with their decent pensions in favor of, and the federal government has done this too already, making you open up a 401k retirement plan that you contribute to in addition to the contributions you make to Social Security, because the Social Security will not cover your retirement anymore.
No, it won't. But I will say one thing about Social Security. It has kept up with inflation a little bit in terms of, for example, when I got out of the Air Force, it's the only time I worked steadily over a lifetime. I worked 7 years in a row, and I made good money. But good money today, because of inflation, was no comparison to what it is now. But my Social Security check reflected the fact that I earned good money for the times, if you know what I mean. They did keep up with it, and there was, if you guys will remember, way back then, they always said Social Security won't be there. There's no way.
Yes.
Social Security exists. It will always exist. And I think that it will be safe because of the great voting power of the Great Panthers. I don't think they will ever let every politician threatens to cut it, but you got to go through the process to cut it. You got to go through legislation. It'll always be voted down because of Congress doesn't want to piss off our.
Well, you know that you say that, but we're perilously close to having that done. If you have a completely Republican administration, Republicans want to do away. They've wanted to do away with Social Security since the 1930s when it was first introduced.
Yeah, but we were lucky enough to get the House back this time.
Right. That's what. Look, because McConnell has already said, we've got to tighten the budget. We've got now those people who pay. They keep forgetting that it's the workers who pay into Social Security. It's not a freebie. They're not getting anything that they don't deserve. But McConnell and his clan, they would like to do away with it, and with the excuse that it would help the deficit. Well, it has nothing to do with the deficit.
Having said
the money set aside in a different bank. It's like saying all the money is in Bank A and Bank B goes bankrupt, and you say, well, that's because we had to spend all the money. Two separate things, two completely separate things.
But having said what I said about Social Security catching up and them not being able to cut the benefits, they do it in very convoluted ways. For instance, when I took my Social Security benefits, it was at age 62. Now, you thinking that I'm going to get a little less than I would if I took it at 66. Now, you can't even retire at 66. So they're hoping you die, they're keeping your money longer and longer.
Yeah, they're definitely extending it. Right?
What age now is that you retire?
What is it?
I think that talking about 66 for early benefits.
Yeah, 68 something for your normal. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Now that's a crime. That in itself is a crime because my brother had the misfortune or the fortune of being born 4 years after me doesn't necessarily mean that he should have to work 4 years longer than I worked, or anybody's brother. Just not fair. So yes, they're coming at us in every way. The only thing they're not doing is coming after the guns. And so that relieves a lot of people. Well, they won't get our guns, but you know what else they're not coming after?
You won't be able to afford to buy them.
The NRA needs to be disbanded. This craziness of gun violence every 2 weeks, mass shootings, and they're not putting two and two together. Whether or not you're crazy and buy the guns, legally, people can always get the guns. They don't have to buy it legally. It's always available.
Well, that's the NRA's excuse for
right?
No legislation.
But it's a shitty excuse because what they're doing is saying, "Oh, we condone it as long as you go through the NRA and buy the guns at the sporting goods store." And believe me, every congressperson who takes money from these people, every senator, every human being, their blood is, anybody who endorses these people, their blood on their hands of these people who are killed. And oftentimes it is the youth of America, and our future is the spirit of the country is more important than anything, and it's being killed. And so there I rest.
On that note,
on that note,
I have to get going.
Okay.
All right.
Well, wish him luck.
All right. Good luck. Hit ball. Take two and hit to right.
Yeah.
And next week is my grandson's the last game, and it's right at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So
make me.
Okay. That's okay. Well,
we'll miss you next week, Michael.
Okay, but after that, I'm free for the next 10 months.
Okay,
but I just
great.
want to tell you, enjoy the real nachas you're getting with your grandson. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Take care.
You well.
Bye.
You too.
Michael. Sorry, I meant to say
David.
Goodbye, Michael. And,
Goodbye, Mike.
And ask David whether or not he'd like to keep it going. Anything else you want to talk about?
No. I was trying. Carl. We were talking about making Laverne and Shirley in Milwaukee rather than in New York. But come on, what's his name? Carl. writer-comedian on the Sid Caesar show. And
Carl Reiner.
Carl Reiner, thank you. I'm having trouble with names today. But Carl Reiner wrote a very funny book. I assume it's a funny book because I haven't read it, but I did see the movie called Enter Laughing, which has... Have you seen it?
No, I haven't, but I remember that title very
Yes, but I did too, and I recorded it, and I had it on my recording, and I hadn't seen it. And then somebody said to me, well, it's about his growing up in the Bronx. And I said, oh, I have to watch it. And, throughout, he has the main character has his James Madison High School jacket on. And it's funny because I asked my wife I told her she should watch it too. We watched it at separate times. And there's one line in there that is so New York, so Bronx, that I laughed, and then she came up with the same line. She said, he wrote that in the line is, go have children. Which every New York mother, whether in the Bronx or Brooklyn, has said that at one time or another.
Queens.
Or Queens, go have children. And Shelley Winters says that in the movie. She plays the mother of the Carl Reiner character, and she says, well, go have children. And it just broke us up, both of us up. And my wife is from Queens too, by the way.
Yeah.
So the expression is by borough. I mean, it extends to the whole New York City area, but it's so typical that we both cracked up at it. And it's a cute story. It's a cute story of him trying to enter show business, and the term is Enter Laughing, which is part of the plot. It's really funny. So it's a good movie.
We should talk about Sid Caesar someday and his effect on all of it.
Oh yeah,
because
I took some comedy writing courses with Neil Simon's brother. Neil was on the staff of the writers of the Sid Caesar, and Danny Simon was there first. Actually, he was the older brother of Neil, and he brought Neil into the group. And during the course of the classes, and then later on, I did an interview for Voice of America with him out in L.A. With Denny, and he told some really funny stories, several of which found their way into Mel Brooks's movies. So we could talk about that because they both actually were from the Bronx.
Beautiful. Hey, we'll do it again next week, and thank you for letting me rant like I did. I'm sorry to break up this have going, but things are messed up, and
I know. I'm trying not to even think about it. That's more like I'm trying not to think about it because it's so awful. Anyway,
but on the good part, we got back to Congress, and that's safe.
Hello.
Step one. Hello.
Hi.
Was the game was rained out?
It was not rained out, but just as I was about to go out the door, my daughter called the games were canceled because of the
fires,
smoke, and the smell.
Ooh.
Can you because of the continuity of the podcast? I think they canceled.
Can you actually smell it from where you are?
I can, but even yesterday on these same fields, they play soccer, and when I passed the fields yesterday, there were no games, and I wondered why. And I had a feeling today same thing could happen. No, I can't smell anything or see anything, but I guess the idea of kids playing and maybe
crowds I guess it's that makes sense. That would be such a tragedy if they had a fire in the middle of one of these kids' games or something. It would be awful.
Or just there wouldn't be a fire in where I live.
No, it's a poor air quality, really.
That's true too. Yes.
That's
one
why
thing about California, David, that you don't know, which is great, and Michael and I both love it, is that they are very ecologically minded.
Oh, yes. They lead the nation.
Lead the nation, and that's what's pissing Trump off with his remarks and whatnot.
Well, there's the court battle going to take place shortly because California's very rigid anti-pollution requirements, and Trump is trying to do away with all this stuff.
The EPA doesn't matter because it's only our planet. It's the air and the water.
Yeah.
We could do bowling.
Trifles, yes.
We
could all do it underground.
Right. In bomb shelters, speaking
Yeah.
So
anyway.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Okay.
Thank you for coming back. Good luck, gentlemen, and we will talk next week. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Okay, let us know if the game goes on next week, or maybe it's a doubleheader to make up for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Single admission, though. Okay.
Well, it's Ladies' Day. Hopefully, Michael, maybe it'll be Ladies' Day.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that would be nice.
That would be nice, of course. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Be well,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Adios.
Bye.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.